First off, I just want to say good afternoon to everybody. My name is Benjamin Burnett. I am here representing the Gay Pentecostal Holiness Church. And kind of the theme of the message today is just going to be that God is faithful. I just want to ask everybody if you've ever gone through just a time of doubt, fear, discouragement in your walk with God. I know that I have, and especially just in the past week, there's been definitely moments of that. But I want to say that God is faithful. God is faithful to a nation. Genesis 12, verses 1 through 3 tells us, I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the people on the earth will be blessed through you. God is faithful to a nation. That was to Israel and to Abraham. God is faithful to a people. Exodus chapter 19 and 24. He establishes the covenant of the 10 Commandments with the 12 tribes of Israel who had just been delivered from a wilderness and from captivity. And they're in a wilderness. But God said, I'm going to be faithful to my people. I'm going to give them a law and understanding that's yet for a nation, but also on a personal level. We see this further, God's faithfulness, as he delivers the people out of captivity in Numbers 14, verse 8. Oh, it's a good verse where God says, I am taking you to the land of milk and honey. And the people come back and they report, this land is of milk and honey. But they also reported that in that land, there was many people, there were giants, there were things that were going on. But we see how our God is faithful then in 1 Samuel 17:50. David and Goliath. God is faithful in the battle to his people. You know, David was just a little shepherd boy and he came up against Goliath, and God's faithful. Sometimes we're just that shepherd boy. God is faithful in whatever place. Daniel 6, the lion's den. Man, Daniel, he really had to depend on God in that moment because, man, in that tomb, in that den, it was dark. All he could feel around him was the lions, but God was faithful. Daniel 3, the fiery furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego made a stand for their faith, knowing that God was faithful in whatever place. And in that moment, they heated the furnace 3 times hotter. But instead of running away, they said, we know our God is faithful. If our God is faithful when the furnace is 1 time as hot, he's going to be faithful when the furnace is 3 times as hot. And that's a great reminder to me in just the personal walk with the Lord, is that even when that furnace seems and things, the stakes get raised and things seem to become ever more important and pressing, our God is faithful in whatever place. Our God is faithful in who he says he is. In Luke 22 in the Garden of Gethsemane, we see Jesus willingly go with the Romans, and he willingly goes to fulfill him being faithful in who he says he is as the Christ, as the Messiah. We see this yet again, going back to the beginning in Exodus 3:17, when Moses asked him, who am I to tell my people who you are? And God says, I am who I am. God is faithful in who he says he is. God is faithful even when we're not. Jeremiah 3:15, Israel is called the harlot. But God says, if you will simply turn back to me, if my people would simply turn back to me, I'll love them and forgive them. We see this again in Luke 22:54, when Peter denies. And I'm here to tell you today, if there's ever been a moment in your life when God has been calling you to do something, but then you turn from that place, there's some good news. Because later on in John 21:27, God does not just forgive him. Jesus does not just forgive him. He says to Peter, if you love me, feed my sheep. He says to Peter, I'm going to give you a plan and a purpose, even in spite of your previous denial of me. And if you do not think that God is faithful, these are some great examples to encourage you and to show you that he is. You might find yourself like Moses in a land of captivity, maybe in a cafeteria, maybe in a workplace where there's people around you who do not believe, who do not see things the same way that you do. But God says, I'm faithful. You might find yourself as Moses and have a problem with speech and not knowing what to say. God's faithful. He'll take you. He'll lead you up the mountain.